You have the power to turn this.
Welcome to our lunch and learn. We'll just leave it a little bit of time to let the rest of the people come in, but I'll be joined very soon by Lauren Rowett and Les Kulesza from Yarra Trams. Okay, I think we'll get going. I'd like to begin by acknowledging the traditional owners and custodians of the land on which we meet today, or we're all over the place, but that's okay, and the peoples of the Kulin Nation. I also pay my respects to the elders past and present. As you know, each week we're talking to a different on-ground specialist, and this week we have Les Kulesza from Yarra Trams, and Lauren will be talking to him. This session, as always, will run for 30 minutes and we'll have 10 minutes for the chat. So pop your questions in the chat and then we'll address them at the end. If we do miss any questions, we'll follow up. This session will be recorded, so we'll be able to access this through our knowledge share from probably Monday. So I'll just ask Lauren to pop back in. Yay, she's here. All right, I'll let you have a chat to Les and I'll step out for a minute.
Beautiful. Thanks very much, Cheryl. Hi, everyone. My name's Lauren Rowett. I'm the Industry Support Officer at Ecologiq, and I'm joined today by Les Kulesza, who is the Principal Advisor for Network Development at Yarra Trams. Welcome, Les.
Thanks, Lauren. Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. So today we're going to talk about an enhanced tram separation project that Yarra Trams undertook in the CBD. Les, can you tell us a little bit about, well, what an enhanced tram separation project is, and then an overview of the project and what your role is within it?
Sure. Thanks, Lauren. Well, first of all, the project really came about as a combination of a recognised need and opportunity. While zero harm's one of Yarra Trams' fundamental core values that we try to focus on, unfortunately, we still have somewhere in the order of 1,000 vehicle to tram collisions each year in the 5 years leading up to the COVID pandemic. And also, unfortunately, 40% of those occur on 15% of the network where notionally trams are operating in their own right of way. And in addition, 30% of those are in the central Melbourne area. And when we looked at it even further, dug even further, we found that 13% just occurred on 2 corridors, namely Collins Street and Elizabeth Street.
Wow.
So it's an issue that we were really looking to address. We're progressively attending to the network as we can under opportunities with tram track renewal. Recently, we've done William Street, Nicholson Street, other corridors such as Spencer Street, where we're able to lift the track, separate it more permanently from motor vehicle conflicts. But what we're aware of in the CBD, there's a lot of corridors where that opportunity hasn't presented itself, and we really need to do something in the shorter term to address that safety risk. The opportunity element really came about with the COVID pandemic, and senior leaders from Yarra, City of Melbourne and DOT met and all agreed to jointly try to tackle that situation we're having. Collins Street itself had a low profile curb put in probably a decade or so ago, and that was in a really poor state of repair. And we really set out to see if we could do something about improving that operating environment. We were also really pleased to see that Melbourne were progressing with the rollout of protected bike lanes in the municipality, which really provided the initial leverage and opportunity for us to progress with this treatment. We basically saw that they were some positive elements being implemented along William Street. And part of that opportunity, Melbourne gave us that chance to also look at exploring an application as a complementary element on alongside the tram tracks. So that's where it kicked off. The decision was made to progress on trying to roll out at least 3 corridors initially in City of Melbourne. The state through DOT found a funding source through the COVID stimulation opportunities, and that's where it all started.
Fantastic.
My role in the project was to lead design development. Sorry, just to continue on, to lead the design development on those works.
Cool. And so tell us a little bit about the recycled product that we're here to chat about today.
Yeah, sure. So again, we were very pleased. Yarra generally is always on the lookout for opportunities to basically to look at more sustainable products that we can use. You know, we're very socially, environmentally aware, and so we're really pleased that the Orca curb, which was produced locally by Orca Civil, and they developed that a couple of years ago with Deakin University, that was locally manufactured, but it also used a high percentage of recycled product, specifically a lot of recycled glass. So about 2/3, 67% of the product is made up of recycled glass. And when we actually looked into it even further, we were funny enough that part of that recycling glass also included old tram windows. So it's a really good example of a real circular economy, that we're recycling old tram windows into a curbing to try to avoid damaging more tram windows. So that was really pleasing.
Absolutely, it's a really nice story about circularity.
Yeah, I love that. I love that element. But Orca Civil were fantastic, particularly Ken Williams and Ellen Travis, and they worked with us to modify the curbing that they'd been producing for City of Melbourne for the bike curbing to be more fit for purpose for our needs. We were conscious of some of the other users and other requirements in relation to applying a curb in the city. Particularly, we did some good work a couple of years back with the emergency services, all 3, to come up with a curbing profile that achieved our purpose in separating vehicles, but was still forgiving from the point of view of emergency services being able to exit the tramways when they use those corridors. So we developed the curb, which was agreed to be 100 millimetres high, and it had a chamfered edge on the inner side of the tram tracks. So Orca were really helpful in creating some moulds, and we did some prototyping with different colours, which we then engaged with City of Melbourne to progress.
Fantastic. So it was kind of a case of you kind of finding a supplier, I suppose, and then developing a product with them rather than kind of an off-the-shelf scenario.
Yeah, exactly right. So, you know, again, we've got to give credit to City of Melbourne with the protected bike lane project, because we really built on the positive outcomes that that was demonstrating. And we were looking for a product that was cost effective, sustainable, ideally, adaptable. So that was really key. We wanted something that was adaptable and readily changed and readily implemented. So we wanted something that we could put in, and if it needed to change because of various access needs, that was easy to do so as well, rather than embedding it permanently into the road pavement.
Fantastic. So you mentioned the recycled glass that's in there. Is that kind of the main element of the recycled materials? Are there other things in there as well?
No, I think there's also some mineral sands in there. I think there's 18% calcium carbonate, and then the remainder is an unsaturated polyester resin that binds it all together.
Okay. And is that kind of a business as usual composition, or is that something that's really quite innovative in this space?
That's probably an interesting one. I think it's quite innovative in that, you know, that's where Orca and Deakin combined, as I understand it, a couple of years ago to explore that capability. Mm-hmm. And they developed this product. They've tested it. I think it's showed to be 4 times as strong as conventional concrete.
Wow.
So my understanding is that since our products gone in, let's call it our product, the tram separation curbing and the bike curbs, there's been interest shown for rollout or application interstate. And I think Orca sounds like a sales pitch, but it's not meant to be. I've got no.
I'm sure they don't mind.
I'm just putting that. I've got no affiliation with Orca in any way, but I also understand they're also using our material in manufacturing potentially pavers that might be applicable in areas as well. So that's
fantastic. So just in terms of stakeholders that you had to engage on the project, so you've spoken about obviously the supplier, you had to work a lot with the City of Melbourne, you've got yourselves, Yarra Trams, and also the emergency services. How about contractors? Were they quite sort of open and willing to work with the product, or was there any sort of barriers or pushback at all?
Yeah, like what really worked, I think, in the success of this project is that because we really had some tight timeframes to develop and roll out, with expectations of funding coming to an end at the end of last financial year. What we did is we established a design development working group, and we had all the subject matter experts that we felt were relevant from DOT, City of Melbourne and Yarra Trams, and we came together and workshopped those designs, both from the point of view of the generic product, but then also specifically the application, corridor by corridor. You know, what sort of delineation, what sort of length should we put in, what sort of size gap should we put in, what do we do with circulation for vehicles, access points. So, you know, we went through all that design process, and that was helped along and by Traffic's group who did the design element for us. And then the other element that was really critical was the actual installation. And we really had in that first application along William Street, we really had some good lessons learned with the product. And once again, along with Orca, we adapted some of that curbing. Initially, it was hollow in the middle. And because we reduced the size of that Orca compared to the bike curb, it was tended to be more brittle as a result of that hollowed section. It also, so in making it solid, it firmed up that strength element, but it also provided some more adhesion on surface. So that was one of the elements. But yes, just leading on to the installation, and that was a really key element as well. So we had Fulton Hogan as our installation contractor, and that was very important. Their professionalism and adaptability was fantastic. So they basically worked up an installation program where we had a rolling installation of a block each night, and that allowed tram services to maintain through the worksite, also allowed emergency services to go through the worksite as required. And it basically minimised that impact on the city because we weren't closing off long stretches of streets. We were just doing a block at a time and doing localised closures. But Orca were also really fantastic in working with FH to make sure that the specifications in fixing, which were just as important as the material itself, were applied. So the fixing screws and the adhesive and the epoxies. So yeah, it was a really good team effort to get the works done in a short time frame. So I think overall we did 3 corridors in the CBD in excess of 5 kilometres over about a 2-month period. So it was
yeah,
really
wow. Silver linings of COVID, I guess, as well, having
exactly
less traffic around to be able to do those sorts of
that
works
was a bonus.
Would ordinarily be quite disruptive.
Yeah, that was a real opportunity to get it in under the COVID conditions.
Yeah. Tell me, so they've not been in for too long, obviously, but have you started to see a lot of improvements in their performance compared to what your business as usual product would have been?
Definitely, and I think you sort of touched on the fact that it's probably unfair to compare the previous 5 years pre-COVID to current conditions where traffic conditions were lighter. We're just starting to recover. So in relation to volume of vehicles coming through the city, we've already noticed obviously an improvement, but as I said, it's a very short period of time since the installation. In the order of probably 50%, I'd say. In some corridors such as Elizabeth, it's up to 75% reduction at the moment. The other sort of elements that we looked at, we got DOT to have a look at whether there was any, or the extent of any adverse impacts on traffic throughput. Mm-hmm. And they did some Bluetooth analysis along Collins Street and found that it's very minimal. I think it's in the order of 3% thereabouts, the journey time, or the speed, I should say, of vehicles through there. And that's primarily concentrated at that eastern end of Collins Street. On the western end, it's pretty much same sort of travel speeds as we had pre-installation. So all of those elements are very positive.
Yeah, fantastic. So in terms of any other barriers or challenges that you came up, like were there any other ones that you sort of came up against in getting the product approved for use, and how did you overcome those? And in anything within installation or anything really?
Well, I think we're quite fortunate because it is it's not a trial. So we haven't got a period of time where we're saying we'll set out to put this in for 6 months and then we'll remove it. Our intention is to keep it there. Ultimately, it may change and becoming something more permanent, and that might happen as part of a streetscape upgrade project or a track renewal project. Then we probably look at making it a more permanent feature. Mm-hmm. But to date, I think very good situation from the point of view of we haven't had to replace too much of it. We have had some damage. Most of it's been alongside construction sites where there's been some more heavy vehicle activity. But again, once again, the numbers, it's in the order of maybe 20 units over the period of time. So it's quite minimal in the context of the amount of material that we've put out.
Yeah, great. So your main lessons learned from the experience, you think?
I think the lessons learned are really related to the importance of making sure that you get a product that's fit for purpose. And I think that we found that from the point of view of not just the material, but the fact that we were able to get that manufactured quite quickly. And I think, again, a big shout out to Orca because they really came to the party in relation to delivering on rollout. So they, developed produced additional moulds and got more resources on board so that we could actually meet the delivery timeframes. The same with FH. There was some days where, it was bucketing down with rain overnight, and I'd be, making contact in the morning thinking, oh, I'm assuming you had no work carried out last night. It's like, no, we're still out there installing it. So there was a commitment to get the works in place. I think the other element was the strategic alignment between those organisations and the willingness and the drive to get the works done. So everyone played their part. A lot of support from City of Melbourne team, DOT team, and the Yarra Trams team that sort of managed a lot of the communication. We communicated with along the corridor, letting people know what we were doing. We communicated with any sort of driveways that may have had their access changed. So I think we did all the groundwork prior to it, and then that sort of assisted with the rollout, with the efficient rollout. And really, the extent of works that have gone in, the response has been pleasingly quite positive. There's been the odd, adverse reaction, but overall it's been a positive response to the installation.
Yeah, that's fantastic. And so Yarra Trams at this stage, they don't actually have a formal recycled first requirement. So were you actually seeking out a recycled material for the project, or was that just kind of a really fortunate opportunity that one came up?
I think it was more a case of the opportunity. As I said, we weren't necessarily aware of it. The protected bike treatments really brought our awareness up to that. And so we were really pleased, as I said before, to be able to also apply a recycled product that was locally manufactured. So it just ticks so many boxes, to get the right outcome. And the other thing is the material itself, as I understand it, is totally recyclable as well. So at the end of its life, if we do end up going back and putting in something more permanent, then that could be repurposed into something else, depending on what the need is at that time.
Yeah, sounds good. And when we spoke the other day, you mentioned that what you were taking out, the product that was currently in there, that's going off for recycling as well, which is great. Yeah,
so we're removing a lot of the old rubber curbing, and actually a call out, we're trying to hand that over to whatever, if there's anyone out there on the call today that has any need for maybe shredding some old rubber curbing, we're happy to hand that over. We're trying to use it as much as we can as maintenance spares and other purposes. So please reach out to me, and I'll next time I'm taking any out, we're happy to hand it over free of charge.
Fantastic. I can see we're coming up to the sort of 20-minute mark. So Cheryl, I might get you to pop back and see if we've got any audience questions at the moment.
Yeah, we've got a couple, and I think Rachel stole mine, but then Les also partially answered this. But asking if the kerbs can be recycled, which you've just mentioned they can. Do you have any idea of what products those materials could be used in that recycling process? Would you recycle them back to kerbs, or are there
talking
other
about
options?
The composite concrete?
The current curb, yeah, the new one that you're putting in, the composite plastic one and glass.
I think it's really a case of, looking for the needs, and I think probably the team at Orca are more well placed to have that discussion with. I know they develop a lot of different products. As I said, I hadn't thought of it until I spoke to Alan recently, that he said, yeah, we're looking at making pavers out of the same materials for paths. There's no reason why, from a council's point of view, there might be other, I haven't really thought about it, what their needs might be, but they could be curbing stones, could be something with the parklets that are being put out there at the moment to support trading, dining, I should say. There might be things like they might be able to utilise them within parks. But yeah, I think the point is anything a concrete unit can do, this could do just as well. So just to keep that in mind as well.
Is it easier to mould than concrete, or I'm not technical, so I'm just wondering.
No, nor am I. I left that to the Orca team. I just said, this is how many units we need in this time frame. Can you roll them out for us? And then they make it happen, I suppose. So that's something that I'm sure that if anyone's got any specific questions, again, as I said, Alan and Ken, I'm sure will be able to assist.
We have a question from Mary Xavier. Has Orca undertaken something similar internationally, or is this innovation designed to suit Australian weather conditions and comply with Australian standards?
Again, that's a question for Orca. I'm not aware of what they're doing in relation to other installations overseas. I am aware that they've had some interest shown in this product from interstate in recent months, but I'm not sure whether that extends to any overseas examples.
And from what I understand from what you've just been saying, this pretty much was customised to your needs, wasn't it?
Yeah, from the point of view of the shape, it's basically was the same material that was used for the protected bike lanes. And as I said, the research that we did on it, the product was developed a couple of years ago in collaboration between Orca and Deakin University, and they went through all the various tests and in that regard, like compression test and I think skid resistant tests, etc. So again, depending on the use, I'm sure that Orca could provide the required specifications depending on what the purpose would be for use.
Are there other suppliers out there, or at this stage are Orca sort of the main supplier in this type of product?
That's probably an interesting question. I'm sure there might be other suppliers that probably they might have comparable or products out of recycled rubber and other materials. We really wanted to move quickly on it, and that's where we know that City of Melbourne we had the luxury of City of Melbourne having it installed for a number of months. And then we also had a little section in William Street of the tram curbing installed. So we really felt there was no reason, and there was a time factor, but there was no reason to sort of change something that we saw or was working well out in the field. So we went with this product.
Great. Well, and as you know, our job is to encourage people to recycle more and suppliers to experiment. And so it's great to hear that they're also looking at doing some tiles. So do you know much about the tiles, or is that an Orca question? I think you said pavers, not tiles.
Yeah, that's my understanding. So it's just something that I understand they might be, expanding on using that same material in that application. But I'm not here to sell Orca's product. I'm here to talk about the value that we've actually achieved in the CBD in some way addressing safety. One of the things that the other lessons learned is that in order to fast track this application, we found that we had a lot of, if you go out there, you'll see a lot of corridors, particularly Burke Street, which has got a lot of red paving, and that's sort of highlighting the conflict points. We're trying to reduce those number of conflict points to try to have fewer openings while still maintaining some circulation in blocks. It's probably just another point I wanted to make. So, but having said that, it's still a better outcome from a tram driver's point of view, where you can actually cite a potential conflict point rather than, most of the incidents previously were occurring with unexpected U-turn movements, when the car would be travelling alongside and then they just turn without any warning in front of a tram. So at least this way we know where those points of conflicts potentially are, and the drivers got tram drivers got more awareness of potential danger at those points.
So will this be rolled out, and sorry if I missed this, but broader than the CBD?
We're currently working on more design plans for some more corridors. And I think outside of the CBD, that will really depend on the state's desire to progress some more business cases and funding. I think we're all looking to the first 3 corridors to see how successful they are. And as I said, to date, they've been really operating really well. So there's no reason why we wouldn't want to continue on that opportunity.
It's a really good test case, I think, having it done in the city, because that's where I'm guessing you've got, well, I think you said before, that's where you've got sort of the most incidents. So if, it's a product that works quite well in the city, then there's no reason that anyone would have any kind of issue with it being rolled out in any other council areas.
I would have thought so. And as I said, we really thought about permeability. So, we set it back from intersections and put in the lower curb to allow for large vehicle swept paths. Even semi-trailers can come around the corner before they hit the Orcas. We put in 1.2 metre gaps every 6 metres. So we've got like footpath permeability. So, you know, people crossing the road don't have to necessarily step over the curbing. They can walk through the gaps. So, and they're frequent every 6 metres. So all of those sort of elements sort of consider other users of the street, but still give us a safety benefit of the corridor.
Fabulous. We have got another question, but it's about recycling plastic from a council municipality. So I think we'll get in touch with Roshank later, and we can probably have a chat about that. But it's great that you're asking, because we need you to come to us so we know what's going on out there. I guess that looks like the questions at the moment. So is there anything else that we've sort of missed, Les or Lauren? We think we covered it.
I think so.
Yeah, it's great to see the work Yarra Trams are doing. You've got a fabulous amount of recycling going on, and throughout our series and next year, we'll explore some more things you're doing. Sorry, Lauren, I cut you off.
No, not at all. I was just going to say it's really fantastic to see the work that Yarra Trams is doing, even though there's not that recycle first requirement in Yarra Trams. So yeah, really great to see.
Yeah, that's fabulous. Look, I'd like to thank everyone for attending. I'll just share my screen for next week's session. Here we go. So next week on the 10th of whoops, wrong one. Can you see this proper screen?
I can see it.
Okay, great, because I've got a few things coming up here. So next week on the 10th of December, Priscilla Mocker will be talking about the use of recycled content in every layer of the pavement for the M80 Ring Road upgrade. So we'll have Sam Witterbean from MRPV along to have a chat about that. And they've done quite a bit of recycling. And again, the M80 doesn't have a recycled first requirement as yet. The project was started before those requirements were happened, but the project has been using quite a lot of recycled content. So again, it's great to see people stepping out into that sort of recycling and sustainability space. And we'll look forward to catching up with Priscilla and Sam next week. And any questions that you want to forward to our email, ecologiq@roadprojects.vic.gov.au. Questions or comments or any further information, please send us an email. And I'd just like to thank Lauren and Les for today's session. It was great. It's great to learn about what you're doing, and we'll all be looking at the curbing that's going on in the city now. So it creates a bit more of an awareness, which is fabulous.
It does. It does.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks
Les.
very much. And thank you, Les.
Thanks, Lauren. Thanks, Cheryl.
Thanks for attending.
Bye.
Bye.